Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I will show you how to make the most delicious and moist chocolate cake ever. I will show you how to make the cake and ice the cake and add a decorative but professional finish. If you want to learn how to make, bake, and decorate this chocolate cake, keep watching. To make this chocolate cake, you're going to need some all-purpose flour, some granulated sugar, some cocoa powder, baking powder, baking soda, some salt, also vegetable oil, some sour cream, some vanilla extract, as well as a cup of freshly brewed coffee. I'll be making a 3-layered cake with 7-inch cake pan. If you want to make a 2-layered cake, you can use 8-inch or 9-inch cake pans. This recipe calls for a cup of freshly brewed strong coffee. If you don't have a coffee maker, grab a cup of black coffee from your favorite coffee house. If you have a freshly brewed cup of coffee, you just want to put it to the side to let it cool down just a bit. Now I'm just prepping my pans. I'm using 3 7-inch round cake pans lined with parchment paper circles. How I prep my cake pans: I spray the bottom of each pan with some baking spray. I place the parchment paper inside the pan. And I just kind of run my hand over the parchment paper to make sure that it adheres to the bottom of the pan. And then I spray it again, making sure to get my corners. So here's my tip for you guys. Cut your parchment circles in advance so that whenever you are ready to bake a cake, you will always have some cake circles on hand. Okay, so let's get started. First, we're going to start with our dry ingredients. We're going to combine the flour, sugar, cocoa powder, baking soda, and salt in a large mixing bowl. If you're using a stand mixer, I suggest using the bowl from the mixer. Give it a quick whisk to make sure everything's evenly combined. Now let's mix our wet ingredients in a separate bowl. We're going to add our eggs, oil, coffee, and our vanilla extract. Whisk all of these wet ingredients together until it's fully combined. So now we're going to go ahead and pour our wet ingredients into the dry ingredients and mix until the batter is smooth. Now we're going to add our sour cream that should have already been measured out. Mix this into the batter until combined, being careful not to overmix it. Now we're going to pour the batter evenly into our cake pans. We use the scale to distribute the batter evenly or scale the batter. I know for this particular recipe, because I've made it so many times, I know that each one of my pans will take 1 pound of cake batter. If you are making a 2-layered cake, your measurements will be different than mine. You will need a little more batter in your cake pans. I'll have a little batter left over, but that's okay. I can use that to make maybe 2 cupcakes, and actually I'm going to make a smaller cake. Give each pan a little tap on the counter to release any air bubbles. We're going to bake these cakes at 350 degrees Fahrenheit or 175 degrees Celsius for 30 to 35 minutes or until a toothpick comes out clean. Once your cakes are out of the oven, let them cool in the pans for about 20 minutes. I'm placing my cakes on an 8-inch round grease-proof cake board. Before we start icing the cake, here's a quick tip. Level the tops of your cake layers using a serrated knife or a cake leveler. I typically use my cake leveler for my smaller cakes. Leveling your cakes allows your cake layers to sit nicely on each other and gives your cake a professional look. The leveler will also ensure all your layers are the same size. As I hold the top of the cake, I use the cake leveler in a saw-like motion to cut through the entire cake from one end to the other. I keep the tops to my cake. I use these cake scraps to make cake pops or cake truffles. Another tip is to imbibe or soak each cake layer with simple syrup. This will add an extra layer of moisture to your cake. You make simple syrup by using equal parts sugar and water. Put it in a pot, bring to a simmer, and make sure that your sugar has dissolved in your water. We're going to start assembling our cake. Place one of the cakes on your turntable if you have one. I filled the pastry bag with my chocolate icing and used the 804 tip. If you want to learn how to make this chocolate icing, I will leave a link in the description box for my video showing you how to make this delicious creamy chocolate icing. Now I'm just applying pressure while turning my turntable in the opposite direction. If you don't have a turntable, just ice the cake in a circle and keep going around and around and around. I ice my first 2 layers and then place them in the freezer for about 10 minutes. I do this to let the icing harden. If I add the cakes on top of one another, I find that it flattens out the icing and I will not have a nice even layer of icing between each cake layer. Now I add the 3rd layer with the bottom or flat side facing upward. Now we'll apply a thin layer of icing all around the cake, which is called a crumb coat. This traps any crumbs and gives us a smooth surface for our final layer. This also seals in the crumbs and prevents it from getting into your icing. I'm going to put this in the freezer. You can actually put it in the fridge. I prefer the freezer for about 15 minutes to let the crumb coat set. Once the crumb coat has set, now it's time to ice the cake. I have filled another pastry bag, this time with an 824 tip. I'm just going around the cake with my pastry bag. Fill your pastry bag as needed. And now I'm just smoothing it out with an offset spatula. When it comes to icing cakes, an offset spatula is your best friend. So I'm just kind of turning my turntable and going in a flickering motion back and forth with the offset spatula. So I'm just turning and smoothing my cake out, and I'm wiping my spatula on my bowl. In order to get a really smooth icing, you can't smooth with icing on your spatula. Once you smooth a little bit, you wipe off your spatula. Now I'm using an icing comb to decorate this cake. This icing comb has actually 2 sides. One is a smooth side, so I'm using that side to really get a nice smooth finish. Now here I'm using the serrated edge. This is going to give my cake some details and give it a little texture. So I do the sides first, then I go on top. And this is how I decorate all my cakes for the holidays. It's quick, it's easy, and it gives you a professional finish. At this point, you can actually stick it back in the refrigerator. The good thing about chocolate cake, the icing gets cold really fast, and it's easy to just go around the edges with a smaller offset spatula and clean up the sides. I actually made this cake for my son who was home from college for the weekend, and I wanted to give him something to take back with him, so I was actually rushing. So again, I'm just cleaning up my sides here with my smaller offset spatula. And there you have it, a beautiful classic chocolate cake with a rich chocolate icing that's perfect for any occasion. Moist, rich, and also chocolatey. I can't wait for you guys to try this at home. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss another delicious recipe. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.